Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of BizTalk with Emmanuel. My guest in this episode is not one, but two wonderful ladies from a company called IdeaScale, which is headquartered in Silicon Valley. Now these two ladies happens to be on a tour around Australia to promote the platform. IdeaScale is the largest cloud-based innovation software platform in the world with more than 25,000 customers and 4.5 million users. Based on the principle of crowdsourcing, members of the IdeaScale community contribute ideas and then vote those ideas up and down in a process that allows the best ideas to come up to the top. Jessica Day is the co-founder and vice president of marketing and communication at IdeaScale. As part of her role, she analyzes and articulates patterns appearing in crowdsourced innovation. My other guest, Whitney Bernstein, is the Vice President of Innovation Strategy and Customer Success of IdeaScale. Whitney coaches clients in designing and deploying large-scale innovation programs at their organization. She works with government, nonprofit, university, and enterprise clients to fully realize their vision for crowdsourced innovation. Without further ado, let's listen to this episode for the interview between me, Jessica, and Whitney of IdeaScale. Hello, Jessica and Whitney. Welcome to Melbourne. Hope you enjoy the wonderful weather of Australia. What's your first impression in Australia?
Thank you. It's so nice to join you. Everyone has been very friendly and welcoming, and
That's good.
It's been a good start to our trip.
Yeah, loving the people, the weather, and the coffee.
Oh, you love the coffee.
Yes.
Aren't we all? So your organization works around the idea of innovation. Now, a lot of people in organizations out there probably doesn't understand where does innovation start. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, actually, one of the most interesting things that's emerging in the research these days is that the idea of this lone creative inventor, creative genius with a eureka moment is actually a myth.
Correct.
That it's actually a good idea can come from anywhere, but it gets more powerful and more potent the more connections that idea makes with other people. So it's really about a network of connections between ideas in any organization or even outside of an organization.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes innovation can be, how can I do my everyday job better? And sometimes it can be, where do we want to be in 2030?
Some of the problem when workers trying to prompt idea to give ideas about certain innovation is some of the management thinks, you don't know anything about good ideas or what's good for this organization. What are your experience about that?
Well, well, I feel like there's two inherent sort of obstacles to overcome there. One is one that we call the hippo problem, that the person that is heard the loudest and is given the most credence is the highest paid person's opinion. So that leader is supposed to be the person where all the great ideas come from, but that's not always the case. And then the other thing is Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma that talks about how the role of middle management has been traditionally to de-risk ideas and to sort of make sure that everything stays safe and the course is predictable, but that's not an environment that's conducive to innovation, which is why opening up and fostering connection in an organization can be really empowering because it helps you get past both of those obstacles.
Right. So, and that's where we got the term crowdsourcing innovation,
right?
Where we leverage your workforce to get innovation. But wouldn't we be facing with another dilemma then? That's we're going to get an overwhelm of ideas that we're not able to manage.
Yeah. So that is a very common question. And the key is to recognize that indeed you will be collecting a large volume of ideas, but you would then employ, a software tool in order to manage that content. And the purpose there is to have a tool where you can really put all of those ideas up against your organizational objectives, an objective set of criteria, for example, and then either select the best ones, those that bubble to the top, and implement a few, winning ideas, top ideas, or you would then want to connect those ideas and cluster those ideas and really glean insights from your trove of ideas that you've collected.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the very common, sort of stumbling blocks for a lot of people who are launching a program like this. They get very overwhelmed. They're like, well, if I get 10,000 ideas, how am I going to implement all of them? But the good news is that you don't have to, and you shouldn't. You should build a system that's able to ground truth the value of those ideas, but also align them to your organization's goals. In fact, we do studies with our customers every year about how their programs are functioning and how they're performing. And I think it's about the majority of our customers, about 80%, less than 25% of those ideas go to the implementation phase. So that's a pretty good rate, actually.
So what are the approaches? Because obviously, if you have 10,000 ideas from an organization, how do you prevent this to be a popularity contest where the CEO always have the idea pushed out and implemented, where the little guys don't really get hurt?
I think it starts with setting the expectation, setting the framework for your program. So when you communicate to your crowd, your employees, this is our intent, this is how ideas will be evaluated, then people can contribute knowing that, this is why some ideas are selected and then some ideas are perhaps put on hold because maybe the market's not ready for them yet. And one of the criteria may very well have been that there needs to be, market readiness in place. So,
yeah, I think that there are certainly features within the tool that we've built, like anonymity, so that you can make sure that the CEO and the facilities person are all on the same level. But I think it's what Whitney says, what we see with our customers. It's really about setting expectations so that everybody sees, oh, that's why that idea has value, because we have the resources or the technology's there for us, and that's why it's being selected, not just because it was the most popular. I also think one of the nice things about crowdsourcing is you can pledge more than your input. You can pledge your time and volunteer to be a part of these teams. One of the ways that you can validate popularity is like it could be the most popular idea, but then you say, okay, who wants to be part of the team that makes this a reality? And if you don't have people who are willing to pledge the time, they're only willing to click a vote. That's not as valid an idea as it might have originally assumed. So there's a few different ways to validate along the course of the sort of innovation funnel.
So one of the issue as well, when you crowdsource idea, you have a lot of ideas and you have people that posted ideas that is a good idea, but when it comes to implementation, is an issue, even if they get a good number of votes. So what are the approaches that, from your experience, most effective to implementing ideas that is good, but not necessarily easy to implement?
So, my suggestion is to start with the end in mind. So talk with those individuals who have the ability, the authority, or the responsibility to implement ideas in the area where you're innovating. And so when you engage those stakeholders early, you can then understand, well, what does it take for them to have a fully fleshed out concept that they can actually implement. And then it's not kind of arriving to them after the fact, but instead it's already been shaped and positioned for success and for implementation. So start with the beginning in mind, or start with the end in mind, and you can pave the way towards implementation. And
I would say that I think one of the best things about crowdsourcing is that you're force multiplying the resources that are available to you. We had discussed this case study before, the Cerebral Palsy Alliance, which is an organization that's based here in Australia, and they wanted to change the lives of people living with cerebral palsy. And one of the problems came from a man in Turkey who said, I need access to electricity to charge my wheelchair at all times, but that's not always predictable where I am. But I don't have the power to change that. So we've got an Australian organization posing that challenge. We got a man in Turkey who has the problem that is, been validated globally as something else that's an issue. But it was a team in Virginia, the University of Virginia engineering students who said, you know what, I think we have the power to build this prototype of a solar-powered wheelchair so that people can have access to that energy even without an electrical outlet. So that's what happens. Cerebral Palsy Alliance wouldn't have had the power to deliver on their own, but with this crowdsourced technology, they get access to people in a different country who can help them solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So does it work, this crowdsourcing concept, does it work only for profit-driven organization, or what's the limit there?
Mm-hmm. Well, it runs the whole spectrum. So if you have a crowd, you can ask the question. So we have universities who are using this, and they might be asking their students for ideas on affordability and how to make university more affordable. We also have enterprise clients who are asking for new product ideas. One enterprise client is making hardware and tools, things you might purchase at your local Bunnings, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked for new product ideas, and it was someone in the marketing department, actually, who had the product idea. It made millions in its first year. It was hugely impactful for the organization, right? But maybe that person in marketing never would have had the opportunity to speak to the product team and offer his idea. So it was transformational. We have government clients as well who are using it to engage their citizens. And then, as Jessica said, nonprofits who might be trying to, engage their crowd for social good.
Right. So now we hit the I think the hardest thing when it comes to implementing innovation, which is the political hurdle. Like we're all well too familiar here with Blue Ocean strategy, how you overcome political hurdle. But you guys from IdeaScale, you have your experiences about how you push this idea through bureaucracy, like a lot of those hurdles. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of our customers come to us needing to sell this idea to senior leadership. But I think one of the easiest ways is to demonstrate the ROI. One of the things we tell our customers is start out by looking for some fundamental core incremental innovations that you can take advantage of. You're going to find some cost savings ideas, some time efficiency ideas, and you're going to implement those, and you're going to be able to see the value very quickly. That'll prove as your sort of pilot test case for leadership. And then once you've gained the sort of validation from leadership, you're going to be able to try more experimental or transformational or disruptive ideas in this crowdsourced format.
And if you look at the data overall, we find that our clients are seeing $1,200 per member in their community. So if you have a 10,000 person community, if you have a 100,000 person community, now you're seeing a return on investment in the millions. So on average, if you say $1,200 per participant, you can then start to understand the magnitude of the return on investment.
Yeah. Well, that's some very good discussion about crowdsourcing of innovation. Thanks for that. And obviously, you're not coming all the way here from the US for nothing. Just tell us a little bit what you got in store for Australia during your visit here.
So, we will be visiting Melbourne, Perth, Sydney, Brisbane. In each of the major cities, we'll also be holding events. So what we call an Open Nation Australia. So it's an event where we convene clients to trade notes, to exchange best practices. Clients will be talking about their use cases, similar to some of the use cases we discussed today. They'll share, the nuts and bolts of how they get the job done, how they architect an effective program, what kinds of returns they're seeing or outcomes they're seeing. So that will be a key component to our tour in Australia, are the Open Nation Australia events in Perth, in Melbourne, and in Sydney. And then we'll also be meeting with clients individually, other innovators in Australia individually, in order to understand, how is Australia, how is innovation, deployed in Australia? How is it getting done? What are the differences here in Australia versus in the US? And helping really working to become a part of that story.
Yeah, what's really exciting is that this is one of our fastest growing international markets for IdeaScale, which I think says a lot about this country. And there's a different attitude towards change and innovation here, and we want to learn what that is, in our individual conversations and beyond.
So is that happening throughout February or all over Australia, or what the dates? Maybe not specific dates. But
right. So we'll be in Melbourne for the first 2 weeks of February, Perth for the second 2 weeks of February. Then Jessica and I will part ways. She will be in Brisbane for a while, and I will be in Newcastle. And then we will meet again in Sydney for a majority of March.
And how do people register to these events?
You can find all of the events on Eventbrite by searching for Open Nation. And you can also, of course, find us on IdeaScale.com. Feel free to message us. We'd love to meet up and learn from, your whole network here.
Awesome. Well, Jessica and Whitney, thank you so much for the opportunity to do this interview, and all the best for your Open Nation events.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Manuel.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed and find value from the discussion in this episode. Don't forget to leave some comment or write your review on iTunes. I'm really looking forward to hear what you think about this podcast. You can also leave your comment on my Facebook page, BizTalk with Emmanuel. If you have any question about anything we discussed in this episode, feel free to send me a message using the button provided on the page. Until next time.